I stood frozen in the kitchen, watching my two older brothers wave the tickets in the air like they owned them. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. Jake and Kyle were already dressed for the championship game, their clothes crisp and expensive, their faces glowing with excitement. They were showing off to their friends, bragging about the lucky night they were about to have. Those tickets. Those beautiful front-row tickets that I had earned. That I had worked months to get. My mom stood in the doorway, sipping her coffee like this was completely normal. She didn't say anything to stop them. She didn't even look surprised. I felt something crack inside me, but I kept my voice steady. "Enjoy the game," I whispered. The words came out so calm, so quiet, that it actually made them stop laughing for a second. Jake looked at me with confusion in his eyes. He didn't understand why I wasn't screaming. I didn't understand it either, not yet. But in that moment I felt something shift. Something dangerous and controlled started growing inside my chest, and I just knew, that this wouldn't end the way they thought it would. My name is Tessa Morgan, and I was 23 years old when I decided my family would finally understand what fairness felt like. I'm telling you this story because what happened next changed everything. It wasn't just about the tickets. It was about being invisible in your own family. It was about watching people you love treat you like you don't matter. For years, I had accepted it silently, thinking maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was too serious, too responsible, too boring compared to my older brothers. But that night I stopped accepting anything. I started planning everything instead. This is the story of how I let my family learn their lesson the hard way. Not through anger or screaming. Not through drama or revenge that everyone could see coming. But through something much quieter and much more powerful. Something that came from watching every move they made and understanding exactly how their own choices would trap them. This is how I went from being the forgotten daughter to becoming the person my family could never ignore again. My daily life was nothing like the life my brothers lived. I was working 2 jobs while taking community college classes part-time. My alarm went off at 5 in the morning before the sun came up, and I would drag myself out of bed to work the opening shift at the coffee shop. 8 hours of taking orders, making drinks, and smiling at customers who complained about everything. Then I would rush to my second job at the local event arena, working as an usher and helping with general duties. That was another 4 hours, sometimes more if there was a big event. After that, I would come home and study, trying to keep my grades up so I could transfer to university eventually. My brothers. They lived differently. Jake was 26 and worked in his friend's marketing company, but mostly he just showed up whenever he felt like it. Kyle was 24 and did freelance graphic design, which meant he worked about 3 hours a week and called himself a businessman. They both lived at home just like me, but they didn't help with bills. They didn't worry about money. They just took things. Food from the fridge. Money from mom's purse sometimes. And most importantly, they took respect. Everyone in our family treated them like they were special, like the rules didn't apply to them. When Dad died 3 years ago, something changed in how Mom treated them. She started seeing them as the grieving sons who needed protection and care. But me. I became the responsible one who had to hold everything together. Nobody asked if I was grieving too. The regional championship basketball game was my late father's dream. He had loved that team his entire life. He talked about watching them play, about the players, about the history. When he died, that team became one of the ways I kept him close. I would watch the games alone in my room, pretending he was sitting next to me explaining the plays. When the team announced an essay contest for fans, I knew I had to enter. The prize was 2 VIP front-row tickets to the championship game, the exact seats Dad always said he wanted to sit in. I spent 3 weeks writing that essay, talking about what basketball meant to my father and what it meant to me. I poured my heart into every sentence. I wrote about loss and memory and how sports can connect us to people even after they're gone. When I won, I cried. Real tears because I felt like Dad had won with me. I planned everything perfectly. I was going to take my best friend Danny, who had pushed me to enter the contest in the first place. We were going to make it special. We were going to celebrate together. Then I made the mistake of telling my mom about it. She immediately said, Maybe take one of your brothers instead. You know they love that team." I just smiled politely and changed the subject. The tickets disappeared the day before the game. I had left them in my room, tucked safely inside my desk drawer where I thought nobody would look. But when I went to grab them that morning, they were gone. My hands started shaking. I tore through my entire room, checking under my bed, in my closet, everywhere. Nothing. My mom was in the kitchen when I ran downstairs, panicking. I told her the tickets were missing. She said I was being dramatic and that I was probably just being careless. Then I heard laughter from the driveway. I ran to the window and saw Jake and Kyle showing off the tickets to their friends, waving them around, bragging about their luck. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might be sick. They had stolen them. My own brothers had gone into my room, found my tickets, and just taken them. Like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. I watched them pile into a car with their friends, all of them excited and happy, heading to the game. The game I had earned. The game I was supposed to attend. And I was standing in my house, watching them drive away with it. I confronted my mom that afternoon. I told her straight up, "They stole from me." I expected her to be angry. I expected her to tell them they had to give the tickets back and apologize. Instead, she sighed like I was annoying her. "They're boys, Tess. You'll understand when you have a family," she said. Those words hit me harder than anything physical could have. She wasn't going to do anything. She was going to let them keep the tickets. She was going to let them go to the game and have the time of their lives while I stayed home. And she was basically telling me that boys got special treatment. That my brothers once mattered more than my achievements. That I didn't matter as much as they did. I felt something inside me shift from sad to angry. From angry to something else. Something cold and clear. I stopped arguing with my mom. I stopped trying to make her understand. I just went to my room and closed the door. I sat on my bed for hours, not moving, not crying, just thinking. My brothers had shown me something important. They had shown me that my family would never give me what I deserved. So I would have to take it for myself. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with my contest certificate in front of me. The certificate that proved I had won. The certificate that meant those tickets were supposed to be mine. I stared at it for a long time, thinking about what I could do. I couldn't force my brothers to give the tickets back. I couldn't make my mom care about fairness. But I could make them understand their mistake. I could make sure that what they had done had consequences. I started sketching out a plan, nothing detailed at first, just ideas forming in my mind. I knew how the ticketing system worked at the arena where I worked. I had learned it during my job training. I knew about security checks and guest lists and how tickets could be flagged if something was wrong. My brothers had taken the tickets, but the tickets were registered to my name because I was the contest winner. That fact suddenly seemed very important. I wasn't going to destroy anything or hurt anyone. I wasn't going to do something illegal or cruel. I was just going to let the system work exactly how it was designed to work. I was going to make sure my brothers encountered the exact same rules that everyone else had to follow. By the time I finished thinking that night, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Monday morning, I showed up for my part-time shift at the local event arena like nothing had changed. But everything had changed inside me. I moved through the day differently, watching everything with new eyes. I observed how security checked tickets at the gates. I watched how the ticketing staff processed entries. I listened to conversations about guest lists and VIP access. I had worked there for 6 months, but I had never really paid attention to these details before. Now I was studying them like they were the most important things in the world. Nobody noticed me watching. I was the quiet girl who did her job and didn't make trouble. I blended into the background. That had always made me feel invisible. But now, being invisible was an advantage. I could see everything without anyone seeing me. I could learn exactly how the system worked and exactly where my brothers would run into problems. My supervisor barely acknowledged me when I clocked in. The other staff members were friendly enough, but we weren't close. I was just the girl who worked hard and went home. By the end of my shift, I had learned everything I needed to know. I spent the next few days researching the ticketing system more carefully. I learned that when someone won contest tickets, those tickets were registered specifically to the winner's name for security purposes. It was to prevent fraud and make sure the prize actually went to the person who earned it. If anyone tried to use the tickets without the winner present or without proper ID authorization, the system would flag it. It was a safety measure the arena used. My brothers didn't know this. They thought they could just walk up to the gate and use the tickets like anyone else. They thought winning an essay contest didn't matter. They thought taking what was mine wouldn't have any real consequences. I didn't cancel the tickets. I didn't do anything officially. I just waited. I waited and watched and let the system do exactly what it was designed to do. That was the beauty of my plan. I wasn't going to manipulate anything. I wasn't going to cheat or lie. I was just going to let reality take its course. I was going to let my brothers experience the natural results of their own choices. Game night arrived. I wasn't at the arena myself, but I watched from home on the live stream, my phone in my hands, waiting. I could see the VIP entrance where ticket holders entered. I could see the security checkpoints. The championship game was a huge event. Thousands of people were arriving, excited and ready to watch. Then I saw them. Jake and Kyle, swaggering up to the VIP gate like they owned the place. They were dressed expensively, confident, already bragging to the friends walking with them. They handed over their tickets to security. And that's when everything stopped. The security guard looked at the tickets. Then he looked at his computer screen. His expression changed from welcoming to confused. He asked for ID. My brothers started arguing, saying they had the tickets, they should be able to go in. But the security guard wouldn't budge. He was following protocol. The tickets were registered to Tessa Morgan, and only Tessa Morgan could use them. Within minutes, my brothers were being escorted away from the VIP entrance, in front of all their friends. Their faces went red. They were angry and embarrassed. I watched it all happen on the live stream and I smiled. My brothers came home after midnight, absolutely furious. They stormed through the house, looking for me. Jake found me in my room. "Did you set us up?" he demanded. His face was red, his voice loud and mean. Kyle was right behind him, equally angry. I didn't answer. I let them yell. They accused me of doing something to the tickets, of sabotaging their night, of being petty and cruel. My mom woke up and came downstairs, pulling on her robe. Instead of asking what happened, she immediately sided with them. "You could have just given them the tickets," she said to me. "You could have been nice about this." I looked at her calmly. "I didn't take anything that wasn't mine," I said. That was all I said. I didn't defend myself further. I didn't yell back. I just went back to my room and closed the door. Behind that door, I felt strangely peaceful. I had done what I needed to do. I had let my brothers experience the consequences of their own actions. And I was just getting started. Days turned into weeks. My brothers barely spoke to me. They gave me cold looks at dinner and ignored me when I walked past them. My mom treated me with disappointment like I was the one who had done something wrong. But I felt oddly free. For the first time in years, I didn't care about their opinions. I didn't care about their anger. I stopped trying to make them understand. Instead, I focused on myself. I threw myself into my studies at community college. I worked on writing, spending hours crafting essays and stories. I took my job at the arena seriously, showing up early and staying late, learning everything I could about event management. I spent time with Danny, my real friend, the person who actually cared about me. The person I had planned to take to that game in the first place. We did things together that made me happy. We went to movies and got food and just talked for hours. I realized that I had been so focused on trying to earn my family's approval that I had neglected the people who actually loved me. That changed. I was finally putting my energy into things that mattered. A week after the game, my boss called me into his office. I was nervous, wondering if I had done something wrong. But his expression was kind. He told me that he had been watching my work ethic. He said I showed up on time, worked hard, paid attention to details, and treated customers with respect. He offered me a paid internship in the event management office. It wasn't a huge position, but it was a real job in my field. It was the first real step toward a career that I actually wanted. I accepted immediately, trying not to cry. This was something I had earned. This was something that had nothing to do with my brothers or my mom or anyone else in my family. This was mine. I walked out of that office feeling like I had been given a gift. But I had earned this gift. I had worked hard and been myself, and someone had noticed. Someone had valued me. A few days later, I overheard two co-workers talking in the break room. One of them mentioned that two guys had tried to get into the championship game with fake tickets. They had been caught by security and were now banned from all team events for a year. The arena took fraud very seriously. I pretended not to listen, but I was absorbing every word. My brothers weren't using fake tickets, so they weren't technically criminals. But in the eyes of the security system and the team, they were flagged as problem guests. They would be watched if they ever tried to attend another event. Their embarrassment had become permanent. It wasn't cruel or illegal. It was just the natural consequence of trying to use tickets they had stolen. Their own actions had trapped them. A family barbecue happened about 3 weeks later. We were all sitting outside in the backyard eating and talking. My uncle came over, Mom's brother, who worked for the team's main sponsor. Jake tried to make a joke about the ticket mix-up from the championship game, trying to laugh it off in front of everyone. He was trying to make it seem like no big deal. But my uncle heard it and asked what he meant. Jake tried to brush it off, but our uncle was already connecting the dots. He had seen the security reports. He knew about the two guys who had tried to use someone else's contest-winning tickets. He called it out loud and clear in front of the whole family. "You tried to scam VIP seats. That's disgraceful," he said. The backyard went completely silent. My brothers' faces turned bright red. My mom's face drained of all color. Everyone was looking at them, waiting for an explanation they couldn't give. For once, my brothers had to face the shame of what they had done, and everyone could see it. That night, my mom came into my room and closed the door. "Did you know about this?" she asked quietly. I looked her straight in the eye. "I didn't have to do anything," I said. "They did it to themselves." She couldn't respond because it was true. She had been there when they took the tickets. She had refused to make them give them back. She had sided with them when they were caught. And now she was facing the fact that her sons had tried to commit fraud. She was facing the reality of how she had raised them, how she had let them believe they could take whatever they wanted. I think in that moment something changed for her too. I started spending weekends at Danny's place. I would pack a bag Friday night and stay until Sunday evening. At first, my mom tried to stop me, but I told her I was studying at Danny's house and it helped my focus. It wasn't a lie. I was studying, but I was also just getting away from home. I was distancing myself from the toxic atmosphere. The house felt different now. It felt smaller than I remembered. I had started to outgrow it, outgrow the dynamics, outgrow the people who had hurt me. When I was home, I was polite but distant. I didn't join family dinners if I could help it. I didn't engage with my brother's conversations. I was there physically, but I was no longer really there emotionally. I was beginning a new chapter, and it didn't include them. My internship supervisor invited me to help manage a major charity event. It was a big deal. The basketball team was hosting a fundraiser for youth programs in our community. The supervisor saw something in me, some potential that I had always known was there but nobody else had ever noticed. I worked harder on that event than I had ever worked on anything. I was organized and professional. I solved problems before they became disasters. I treated volunteers and guests with genuine respect. And when the event was promoted, they highlighted my essay. They talked about the young woman who had won the contest and was now helping to give back to her community. They told part of my story. My brothers saw it. They saw me on the promotional materials. They saw my name. They saw me being recognized and celebrated for who I actually was. And they couldn't do anything about it. This success that they couldn't steal or ruin or take credit for. Meanwhile, my brothers started facing real consequences. Jake had been using his connections at the marketing company to seem successful, but the scandal from the arena got out. When the company found out about the fraud attempt, they were embarrassed. They fired him. He tried to tell them it was just a misunderstanding, but nobody believed him. His reputation was damaged. Kyle's friends started mocking him online. The story had spread through their social circles, and now they were the guys who had tried to cheat the system. Their arrogance that had once seemed invincible started to crumble. For the first time in their lives, they were facing actual consequences. They couldn't laugh their way out of it. They couldn't charm their way out of it. They had to sit with what they had done. My mom showed up at my workplace one afternoon without warning. She looked tired and older than I remembered. She asked if we could talk. We found a quiet corner, and she sat down slowly, like her body was heavy. "I didn't see what they were doing to you," she said quietly. "I didn't see how unfairly I was treating you. I was so focused on comforting them after your father died that I didn't notice I was hurting you." Listen. I didn't rush to forgive her. I didn't make it easy for her. I just listened to her acknowledge what she had done. "I'm sorry," she said. He nodded. "Okay," I said. I didn't say I forgave her because I wasn't sure I did yet. But I heard her and I accepted her apology. That was a start. Months passed. The charity event became a massive success, and the basketball team wanted me to be part of their permanent team for future events. I was officially offered a position as an event coordinator assistant. My mom came to the celebration ceremony where the team thanked their volunteers and highlighted key contributors. I stood on stage next to the PR director as they talked about my story. They talked about my essay, my resilience, my responsibility, and how I had turned pain into purpose. They talked about young women like me who worked hard and never gave up. My mom watched from the crowd, and I could see tears running down her face. I think she finally understood who I really was. Jake and Kyle showed up at the event too. They were dressed nicely, trying to seem normal. They looked uncomfortable the whole time. After the ceremony, they tried to approach me. Jake mumbled an apology. Kyle said he was sorry too. I shook their hands politely, nothing more. There was no hatred in me anymore, but there wasn't warmth either. Just closure. Just the understanding that they were people who had hurt me, and now we had both learned from it. We would move forward separately. When the announcer thanked me for inspiring young women who turn pain into purpose, something clicked inside me. I realized I was no longer the family scapegoat. I was no longer the forgotten daughter or the responsible one or the boring sister. I was Tessa Morgan. I was someone who could overcome injustice. I was someone people respected. I was someone who mattered. The crowd's applause felt like it was washing away every cruel word, every dismissive look, every time I had been overlooked. I stood there, smiling, feeling stronger than I had ever felt. 2 weeks later, I packed the last of my things from my mom's house. I had found a small apartment close to campus that I could afford with my new job. I wasn't running away angry. I was moving forward purposefully. I left a note on the refrigerator. It said, "Thanks for teaching me what I won't accept." No drama. No revenge speech. Just the truth. I was grateful to my family for showing me who I was through showing me who I didn't want to be. I was ready for my new life. 6 months later, I sat courtside at another championship game, this time as part of the event staff. I was wearing a headset, coordinating volunteers, making sure everything ran smoothly. I was part of the team now. Belonged. When the crowd roared during an exciting play, I smiled. Not because I had won against my brothers, but because I had won against the person I used to be. I had risen above the hurt. I had built something real. I had become someone I was proud of. I looked up at the scoreboard and I thought about my dad. I thought about how he would have been proud of me too. I had taken his dream, those championship seats, and I had turned it into something bigger. I had turned it into my own dream, and I had made it real. Finally, the one I would repeat to myself every day for the rest of my life. I stopped waiting for fairness. I started making my own.